New World is an open-world MMO set in the world of Eternum. It was developed and published by Amazon Game Studios and released late 2021, so it's been out for over a year now. New World doesn't feature any classes, but lets you build your character and specialize into two main weapons, focusing on certain attributes. It has a heavy focus on both PvE and PvP activities, and has enough unique features that help it stand out in the genre. If you followed New World in the early days, it had a very chaotic development cycle where they changed completely the direction of the game. The launch was successful, but rocky too. And since then, we've had some good content releases in the last year. There's been some new zones, content, some new weapons added, and more importantly, recently they launched their first season. So yeah, New World now has seasonal content. Season 1 is the Fellowship and Fire season, which started a couple of weeks ago, and it has challenges, rewards, a battle pass. And you know, it's content, love it or hate battle passes, it's content, and there's unique things to grind towards in there, and there are free stuff in there too. However, New World has a surprisingly low player count for such a polished game by such a big game company. So today I want to go over everything in the game and discuss if New World is worth playing in 2023. So first thing you do, the character creator. The character creator in New World is pretty solid. There's a lot of customization and options, and the graphics of the game are really good. There's no classes, height, weight, or any other decisions here don't impact your power, so the character creator is purely a cosmetic thing. And then you're thrown straight into a tutorial, which is, I'll be honest, it's fantastic. Everything about the first hour of the game is hands down one of the best in the genre. Amazing cutscenes, it introduces you to every system really well with its own quest and its own story. You pick up a sword on the beach, something jumps at you, you get an action combat of what to do, talks you through the controls, or all the way up to a mini boss at the end. It honestly is one of the best intros to an MMO, and honestly fantastic. Really, really, really good. And then once you get through the tutorial, you're opened up to the leveling experience. This leveling experience has been revamped recently, so the quest chain, the main quest chain is now different and faster and takes you through some different zones and is much more streamlined. As someone who played this on release, I can say it's so much better. So yeah, if you are thinking about coming back to New World, I will say the leveling experience is vastly, vastly improved. It still has some major issues that I want to talk about, but overall, it's really good. It's very typical quest-based MMO. You go to a main quest, you pick up the side quests, and then you go complete them. Most are clear out a location or talk to a person for an item, and then you go back to a city hub and hand them all in. On top of this, New World has a fantastic gathering and crafting system. You can easily take 3 times longer doing these quests because you're skinning every animal, chopping every tree, harvesting every rare resource that you see and every strange named thing you pick up. And then when you get back to town, you empty all this stuff and you craft. You craft weapons and armor and all this cool stuff with all the stuff you picked up on your journeys. And this is what I love about New World. The leveling journey is honestly one of the best. It really is. It's A tier, S tier, whatever you call it. You can play for 12 hours just in this same cycle. New town, new bit of story, you take all the 5 side quests, you go out and gather everything, you do quests for a couple of hours, you go back, level up all your crafts, you turn ore into weapons and armor, you cook, you make potions, and you just have fun. While you're there, maybe you learn an instrument and become a bard in a city, maybe you go out and PvP an enemy faction, or you go and do some faction quests. It's slow progression, but if you're just looking to have fun, the leveling experience is so fun. Honestly, incredible. It does have 2 issues though, which I will talk about. First up, the developers have made it very clear they don't want mounts in the game. They want it to be immersive, they want it to be realistic, but it doesn't work. They want a separate economy, separate cities, faction controlled territories, but it doesn't work. They impose quests that are miles apart, so you have to manually walk from one side of the zone to another, talk to a person, and then walk all the way back. And if you're just looking to level fast, this is terrible. You are walking on a path for 10 minutes, and you feel yourself wasting your time, and you know you've got to walk straight back when you're done. You can speed up time by, you know, getting these teleporter things, and you can fast travel back to the city, but most of the stuff, especially the first time you play, isn't unlocked, and you have to do this all manually, and it's painful. It's so painful, and going through this leveling experience is probably where a lot of people quit. And there's no reason to keep the places as separate as they've made them. There's no danger taking ore from one city to another because you can turn PvP off. There's no risk of moving something across the map. You can completely take all risk out of the game. So the only thing that the walking and not having mounts in the game imposes is frustration. And then the next issue I see with the leveling experience is the servers. So when I played the game, I can only speak on when I leveled up, there was a server cap, and the server cap when it came out was 2,000. Because of this, they had to make loads of new servers because they were all full. And Then people started leaving the game and these servers became barren. You had 2,000 people max server. When people drop off of that server or if they're not online, that's a very small server for a very big map. The world is huge. So you might struggle to find people to quest with, do dungeons with, do open world PvP, unless you're on the biggest and best server. Okay, next up, the builds and the classes in the game. The game doesn't have classes, so when this came out, I thought the weapon system looked dreadful. 2 equipped weapons, each with 3 usable skills. It sounds like a MOBA, right? But playing this a lot, it does have enough depth to keep it fun. Weapons like bows and rifles need to be manually aimed, and they feel incredible. Shooting a bow from range feels good. Shooting and reloading the rifle feels amazing. Running in with a huge hammer and smacking your enemies feels good, even without any skills in the game. And then you add those skills in, and they add a cooldown extra. So think of the game without skills as a combat game, and then you add the skills for that extra flavor. It opens up more with the 2 weapons. You could really mix things up, like the ice glove, have that set up a turret, a chill effect, then switch to the fire staff and blow enemies up. Use weapon skills on one weapon to buff yourself or incapacitate the enemy, and then switch to a damaging weapon. The skill trees also have tons of passives that make builds really unique, and you can have a lot of customization in your characters. You can also respec, so you can become an intelligence build, have a fire staff and stuff like that, and have intelligence gear. And then later on, pay a little fee, in-game gold, not real fee. Just pay some gold, respec it all over to a strength build, pick up a big hammer, get some strength gear off the market, and you're good to go, and now you're playing as a strength class. I changed like 3 times during my playstyle, and every now and again I'll switch from strength to intelligence to try it out. So that's a really good part of the game. You are your character, not your class. Next up, PvE and PvP in the game. So New World has an identity crisis. New World is very confused and doesn't know what it is. It has PvP and PvE content. It was set to be a PvP game. Long ago, the game was developed as a PvP game, but then they realized that full PvP games have a much nicher audience than PvE games, and most of the big games are PvE games with tanks, healers, DPS, dungeons. So they just changed it. They just changed to be like everyone else. And then what actually released was a PvE focused game, a player versus environment game with tank weapons like a sword and shield and a healing staff, but barely any dungeons and nowhere near enough actual endgame content to compete with any of the competitors. So it came out in a really weird spot. The dungeons are fun. The ones we have are great. They include puzzles, objectives, bosses, loot. There's a really cool looting system as you level up where the bosses drop items that can then be saved to craft boss weapons and armor. The dungeons they're really, really good. They are. I won't knock them. They're really, really good. Each one's unique, super fun, and trying to work out how to overcome them and the puzzles and what you need to do in each one is really different to most, which are just clear the trash and then tank and spank the boss. So I think they've done an amazing job with the dungeons. And there's also some other stuff like world bosses, rifts, open world challenges that really keep the PvE experience fun. There's loads of stuff you can do as well, like side quests and mission boards, and there's loads of PvE content to keep you busy. It just doesn't have the same endgame that you might be expecting from a PvE endgame game. And then onto the PvP. Because they moved away into a PvE game, this also feels a little weird. PvP is great. The battles for territories, the skirmishes, shooting people from range with a rifle or charging in with a greatsword are all great. But PvP just feels secondary. You can manually turn off PvP in the open world. So if you're looking for a fight, you can be looking for a while. And some things aren't as balanced as others in these fights. Because there's such a mesh between PvE and PvP, certain things are really good in one and not good in another. And yeah, I don't know. I just wish they'd go all in on one and not try and keep it this kind of confused situation of a game that doesn't really know what it wants to do and hasn't excelled fully at one thing. If you're looking at a PvP endgame, you're going to be fighting in the territory wars on repeat and constantly fighting for locations against the enemy factions. If you're doing the PvE endgame, you're mostly just going to be fighting the same things over and over again, trying to watch your numbers go up. There's a thing called expertise, and you're constantly trying to get that score up. But yeah, they're the end games. If you engage with either PvP or the PvE, that's what you'll be doing for the vast majority of the time. Then on to another big feature of New World, the factories and territories. There are 3 factions to join. You've got the Divine Covenant, the Military Marauders, or the Secretive Syndicate. And each one is completely unique, has its own story, rewards, aesthetic, and you've got to fight together with different players to take on the enemy factions and take over different areas of the map, including all of the cities. This is a fantastic idea. Working for your working for your faction, ranking up, getting their unique armor, taking over territories, finding the enemies in the open world and PvPing them, or taking on huge faction v faction battles is incredible. And it's one of the things that sold New World to me before it even came out. Once you take these territories and settlements, you can upgrade them, set the tax rate, reap the benefits, build houses. The whole system is incredible. But again, it does have its problem. Normally one faction grows and overpowers the rest, and you're locked out from switching factions for, I think it's like, it was 2 months, maybe 60 days, something like that, leading them to all have perks and benefits. They bring in all the money, like the dominant faction that has like 3/4 of the map will bring in all the money, the players, the power, and they're hard to overthrow, which makes you feel awful if you're a faction that only has one town in the bottom of the map. So they've also lightened the restrictions around what each faction does and how owning the cities works, so it doesn't feel as amazing as it used to have everything. They want to be a full PvP territory game, but they're pulling it back to make it play better and be nicer for PvE players, and you can feel it. You can feel that they don't have the impact that they should. Overall, there's a lot to love about New World. If we were to pull out all the systems, the gathering, the crafting, the territory, the wars, how the weapons feel, how the combat feels, the dungeons, each of them are really cool and unique and make me want to log in and play the game. But the game itself as a package, as an MMO that you need to dedicate time and hours to, just doesn't feel right. There's something missing. If you're looking for an awesome endgame, the big theme park MMOs do it better. PvP is done much better in full PvP games, and other big focus games like that. Even games that have full PvP servers work better than New World. The big strength here that I personally like is the cities, the zones, the world, the gathering, the crafting, and the combat. It just needs so much more structure, and in my opinion, I think it needs to decide what it is as a game. I think New World has the foundation to be one of the best MMOs, and I said the same thing on launch. We just aren't there yet. There's a reason people either got bored on the journey to max level and quit, or got bored at endgame and quit, and there's a reason the player count is so low. With the new battle pass, change to questing, and plans for the future, I'm hopeful that New World becomes something great, but right now, is it worth playing in 2023? For a bit of fun and a new game with your friends, yes, but to go all in as your main MMO, I don't think so. Maybe in the next big update, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, we'll be saying New World is the best game ever made. But right now, it still feels like it needs a lot of work. That's it for this video. I hope this has helped. I try and keep it as unbiased as possible. So if you like this style of review, subscribe for more. Other than that, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.